Welcome to the video documentation of the GAS Helper plugin. A plugin to help you to manage the attributes and variables of your ability class. A small side note before we start, it's possible to use the plugin in a project with already existing assets. Just for documentation, I will start with an empty project. Step 1. Add the plugin to your project. The simplest method is to add the plugin via the Epic Games Launcher. Now we open the project and update the project files if needed. First of all, let's check if the plugin is enabled. Go to Edit, Plugins, and search for BDC, GAS or Helper. Make sure this checkbox is ticked. Also, we go to Gameplay, Ability. Make sure this plugin is enabled too. Now head to the Plugins folder in the content drawer. You can reach that by opening the content drawer either by clicking here or hitting Ctrl and space. You can find the plugins folder here. If it's not visible to you, go to the settings in the upper right and hit Show Plugin Content. Open this folder, right click the GAS Helper plugin and run it. Since this is a blueprint only project, there is no source support. If you created a CPP project, this window won't appear. So we need to enable source support in this project. This small manual guides us through this. After the editor finishes to add the source module, you want to open the project file in your IDE. Before you can build, make sure either Visual Studio, Rider or any other IDE that can handle CPP solutions is installed on your system. Close the editor and open the SLN file located in the project's directory. It's the project's solution. Head into Games, right-click your project name and set a startup project. It also should name the project here above. Select Win64 and Development Editor. Now you simply can hit F5 or debug and start without debugging. After the compilation finishes, you see this end screen and the project has opened. Head again to the content drawer into the GAS Helper folder and run the utility widget. Now the widget wants to activate GAS in your project since it does not find the correct modules and dependencies. Simply hit Activate GAS 2 times after you're cool with the settings. We now need to close this window, and you can either try to compile this on the fly or again via your IDE, Visual Studio, CodeBlocks, JetBrains. This live coding was successful. We now open the widget again. So, the first window you will see are the settings. Here you can change the file name of the generated source files and also check the project API, which is important. Also check the source path. This is a new folder which is created in your project's root directory. This one. Beside that, you can choose which files really should be generated and if all the files should be backupped into your root directory folder. This little button makes the config file more readable. So the config file is also located in your root directory of the project. When you open it, Unreal by default creates a one-line code. You can make this more pretty and formatted by hitting this button once, and it's more readable for you. One really important setting is the health attribute, so you really need one, because this attribute is used to drive the isAlive function of the character. But currently there is no attribute available, so we head to the Edit graph. In the Edit Attributes tab, you can create new attributes for your characters. Simply hit this button and a new attribute is added. I for myself called this one Health because it's the first attribute the player really needs. We can give this attribute a short by ticking this checkbox. Beside the health, also a health max is generated. We want to add a set and get event for this attribute. And we want to change notify, so we get an on health changed event exposed to blueprints. What we also want is to organize our attributes in categories of needing. This one is the uncategorized category. You can change the attributes category with this combo box. So we want this health attribute and maybe mana into the basic categories. We go to Edit Categories, Add New, and call it Basics. By default, there's a category called Uncategorized, which is the default Add Attribute category. You can rename or delete it, but it will get generated again, so leave it as it is. Back to Edit Attributes, we can now choose Basics as new category for the health. And since we need the health attribute to be set into our settings, we chose it with this combo box. To fill our attribute list faster, we can duplicate attributes, which also duplicates all the Boolean types. To not litter our attribute list with hundreds of attributes, you can also collapse and expand the category lists. The small number indicates how many attributes are inside this category. You also can rearrange your attributes inside the category by hitting the small arrows. Since the gameplay ability system not only needs attributes, it also needs an ability. So your base class can be filled with variables via the Edit Ability button. You can add a new variable, choose the variable type, give it a default value, a name, and a description. You also can set a variable to be private, so no Blueprint or CPP class can access it. So beside the variables you create here, there are two variables that are per default in the class. The first one is a name called ability name. The second one is a socket, ability socket, which is an enum of basic ability types, so special, light attack, heavy attack, and that stuff. The final step in this window is to generate a file. So we can click above here, but nothing is happening. That's because you need to actually hit this button 3 times to make sure you really want to generate this code. That's simply because of this file. Your character base class gets overwritten every time you hit generate. Same goes for the attribute set. The only class that's only generated once is the Gas Character Plus class. You can also name it the Actor class. This is the class that you want to use for your blueprints. Put new functions inside, new variables, because it never gets overwritten by the generator. Let's hit it 3 times. And that's it. All files are generated. You can now close this editor. For the first compilation, I recommend start it via your IDE. But before that, let's update the project files. Head to your project root folder, right-click, additional options, and generate Visual Studio project files. This will make sure the new files in the source folder, inside of the GAS, public and private, recognized by Visual Studio. Like with the first build, make sure the starter project is set right. Hit Ctrl F5 or start without debugging. And wait until it got built. As you can see, this should not take long because there are less files than on the first startup. After the project is opened, you now can start using GAS. For this, let's create some basic classes. The first one is the character class, which for now is named Gas Character Actor. Don't use the base class, always use the actor class. Open it and go to the graph. In this class you can see it already has the ability system component attached to it, and it is the one we created in the editor. Let's check out some functions for our attributes. First, the health. Now, to compare this, the attack. As you can see, the attack has a green output, while the health has a blue one. That's because the health attribute has a max value we set up in our editor. This is a new data type I call attribute split. You can break this, since it's just a structure, to receive the current and maximum value as floats. You also can right-click it and simply split. We also have set for each attribute. If you select health max, you also have a health max. Same goes for attack. There are also new data types. For example, if you want to have a list of your attributes in a function, add an input, then search for collection. There you'll find those collections. If you now drag the function somewhere, you can select the exact attribute. You also can get a full list of all attributes. I search for enum list. So this list now contains all attributes, including attack, defense and shield. You also can check the condition of the player's health by typing is alive. This returns a boolean. So if the current value of the health drops below 0 or 0, this one returns false. So you can say this character is dead. You also got changed notifies. Simply type changed and look for the wanted attribute. This gets called whenever the health value changed. With this you can drive your UI, progress bars or health bars. The next class you need is a gameplay ability. Right click, blueprint class and search for our one. We use the gameplay ability base. If you open it up, you can see these variables are set for the ability. The ability name, per default, the socket to drive a slot, and the name we added with our editor. If you now want to add additional attributes, simply open the editor, go to edit attributes and add a new one. This one is our test. For now, test is a private attribute. Without enabling this checkbox, this attribute won't get any events. We can leave it in uncategorized and generate the code. Typically, you now don't need to build the project via your IDE. Simply hit the live code button to manually toggle a build. Now let's see it into our character. There it is. Thank you for watching this video. Stay motivated and happy coding.